Is this thing on? Welcome back to Big Mouth, and fancy seeing you here in June. A very welcome, my friends, and especially my enemies. Coming, sit down, no touching. I don't do the touching. Are you feeling charitable? Then smash the subscribe button and the like button, and please do follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad. It's so much fun on my Twitter because I am honest and not afraid of anyone. Welcome to Friday's edition of the DC Multiverse Daily, a gigantic edition which is going to please everyone who is a DC fan. And I mean a DC fan. Not a fan of an actor, not a fan of a director, actually a fan of DC and these DC characters, because last night something massive dropped. Now, admittedly, it was only from the cultured nerd, who are not verified kind of publications or anything like that, but they've got a little bit of a good record. And I mean, a lot of people think they just make it up as they go along. But what happened with what they reported, which was that Henry Cavill has signed a free picture deal and has agreed to come back in cameos, and I can exclusively reveal one of those cameos will be in the Flashpoint movie, definitely. So they revealed that Henry Cavill has signed a free picture deal to return as Superman. Massive, exciting news. Now, what happened later on, the Express in the UK started reporting this as well. And the Express is a massive paper in the UK. Of course, Henry Cavill is one of the most prestigious, well-known British actors, so they would report about it. It would be big news in the UK. Now, as you've noticed, the trades have not said a word about this, the Hollywood Reporter Screen Rant. Why is that? Well, it's because Warner Brothers haven't fed it to them yet, haven't told them it's okay to talk about. Now, the cultured nerd have obviously heard about this and reported this instantaneously, and somehow it's dribbled down to the Express. So this is true. I can tell you, I've reached out to people, and Henry Cavill has signed a free picture deal to return as Superman. And oh boy, am I happy. Oh boy, am I proud. Oh boy, am I excited. What? They're only doing this to distract my attention away from Ray Fisher's accusations of horrible treatment on the Justice League reshoot set? Really? I don't care. Keep on talking, Ray. Maybe you'll get them to agree to a few other projects, yeah? Hey, you could do Plastic Man a favour as well. Anyway, right, we will be talking about Ray Fisher. There is a new episode of the Ray Fisher Show at the end of today's DC Multiverse Daily, but let's discuss this. So now we have to decide where all this is going, or where all this is heading. Is he actually Warner Media's main Superman, or as I predicted when Zack Snyder's Justice League was announced, would he be an HBO Max Superman? Now, I believe he is the HBO Max Superman. I don't think there's going to be any official discussions about this yet in terms of publications, the fans, us knowing for a fact. But he's definitely the HBO Max Superman. Now, could he also be J.J. Abrams' Superman? Look, conceivably, of course he could. I have my doubts about that, but we will see. Of course he did talk about casting him, or he certainly spoke to Henry, because Henry was around the circuit back then before he was a big deal like now. I mean, everyone wants to cast Henry for everything. I do believe that Christopher Nolan will cast Henry Cavill as the next James Bond. I think he will cameo in No Time to Die. And I do believe No Time to Die is the beginning of something that's going to continue with Christopher Nolan and Henry Cavill. I've talked about this before, and maybe I'll do a separate video about that. But this is, of course, we're talking about Superman. So you're not confused, because I did leap in there and not give you details. But basically, just to reiterate to you that Henry Cavill has signed a free picture deal to be in 3 separate Superman movies, I believe, probably on HBO Max, but I could be wrong. That could be for 3 Justice League movies, but would he already be signed up for Justice League sequels anyway? So that's a good point. So these could actually be 3 Superman films, which is really exciting. That's what the reports say. So I will be absolutely happy if that's the case. Again, we don't know if these are going to be HBO Max straight to streaming Superman movies, or if he's actually going to be the main Superman. That remains the question mark right now. And if he is going to play Bond as well, and I think there's a really good chance because everybody's talking about this, he's everywhere. Enola Holmes, The Witcher. A very interesting thing happened when he was cast on Mission Impossible. And after what happened with Justice League, I mean, he was mocked. They were doing the gifs of his, the horrible CGI on his face. It was embarrassing. They nearly destroyed his career. Now, I want to go back to this claim that Henry's been difficult for the past 3 or 4 years, wanting more money. This was never about money, and I've made it clear and reiterated it to you guys and girls so many times. But I will tell you again that Henry Cavill wasn't being difficult. He wasn't trying to get ridiculous amount of money. He just wanted the money, he deserved, right? Like everybody else gets paid, right? But it was never about money. He's not a missionary. He doesn't work for free, right? Let's be clear here. He always wanted a direct sequel to Man of Steel, a movie that deals with the Codex and those people who were, dragged into the Phantom Zone. He wants those themes and stories continued. He's a big fan of Man of Steel. And I mean, it's pretty obvious he's a bigger fan of Man of Steel than he is of BVS. But I mean, actors do films that maybe they feel went in a direction that they don't support. And I think it is interesting because, as I said last week, if Christopher Nolan and David Goyer stuck around, we would have got the continuation of that. So it's going to be very interesting who writes and directs these Henry Cavill Superman projects. I think that is very important and very interesting and very exciting. So we will see. Will it be Zack Snyder or will it be somebody else? And that all depends, of course, if he is the main Superman or just Zack Snyder's Superman. And these are questions that will be answered in the weeks and months and years ahead. But I think just that we're getting this news is massive. And I think after this news has broke, because studios very rarely officially announce contracts and things like that. And they're always kind of fed through the publications, a Variety and people like that, or, in newspapers. They don't stand there saying, hey there, Henry Cavill signed a new contract. These are everyday things. Imagine if they announced every damn actor and people who work for them in these studios that they've signed a new contract. It doesn't work like that. The announcements you normally get over films and castings, and that's hard enough work for the PR and marketing side of these studios as well. So you're never going to get an official announcement from Henry or the studio about this situation. It's been leaked out. It's great that it's been leaked out because it's a shot in the arm for all of us Superman fans. It's a fact. It's happening. You may not like it if you're on the Ray Fisher side of things, but at the end of the day, as far as I'm concerned, the problems on the Justice League reshoot set were solved the moment Zack Snyder was allowed to return. I'm sorry, guys and girls, that you had abuse on the set, but for me, once Zack came back, all that chapter was over with. And what a brand new chapter we've got to look forward to. And we will be talking about Ann Sarnoff and Jason Killar's stance on investigating improper behavior on their sets and what they intend to do about it. That's something else. But right now we're talking about Superman. What we're going to find out very slowly and surely is really Warner Media's, big plans for Superman. And I've told you for weeks and months now, they do have big plans. They are going to overexpose this character everywhere. Television, streaming. I expect Brandon Routh to be involved in a kind of limited Superman series as well about the Superman we saw him play in Superman Returns and Crisis on Infinite Earth, because they are the two, as far as I know, they're the same characters, right? And so he's got a part to play in this, as Henry Cavill has in a much larger capacity. The question mark is now, will they cast another Superman as well? These are things they're going to have to be very transparent with the public, because if they do cast another Superman and they don't explain the situation that Henry Cavill's actually at the HBO Max Superman, people are going to think that Henry isn't going to figure here, even though with this news, or should we say rumour, that Henry signed a free picture deal. As I say, I believe it's true, and I believe we can all rejoice and be happy. It's marvelous news. But now that Warner Media are running things, Jim Lee and Walter Hamada, Superman's future is secure in a big, big way. As I said, HBO Max, the main Superman theatrically being released as well. So this is just an exciting time to be a Superman fan. And of course, Superman Lois TV show as well should be a great show. Very, very different. They're setting that in Smallville. So that should be an interesting kind of premise for Superman as well. So I'm excited for that. But I'm just really, really happy that Henry's penned this deal, that he's back. And it means he's going to get some kind of continuation from Man of Steel as well, which is really important. But absolutely today, massive news that Henry Cavill has signed a free picture deal. Now, whether or not they've released this to deflect attention away from Ray Fisher, I really don't care. I'm a Superman fan. I'm a fan of these DC characters. And that, my friends, is what I'm focused on. Brilliant news. Before I heard about Henry Cavill, this was going to be the top thing on today's DC Multiverse Daily. This is a brilliant article. I'm saying it's brilliant. I haven't even read it yet. But this was something I wanted us to experience fresh together. This is an article with the wonderful, talented Tom Holkenborg, a.k.a. Junkie XL, the protege of Hans Zimmer, of course. The man who did the music for Batman vs. Superman, if I remember rightly. What a beautiful score. That is, and the guy who was originally supposed to do the score for Zack Snyder's Justice League, and he's back. And Forbes have nabbed a big interview with him, and we're going to read it all. Music Business, Inside Zack Snyder's Justice League with Tom Holkenborg by Simon Thompson. If I was to go back in time and say to myself, Tom, in 10 years you will have come off 8 years of being incredibly busy working with Robert Rodriguez, Zack Snyder, George Miller, James Cameron, Peter Jackson and Tim Miller, I would be like, that sounds crazy. Sometimes I have to pinch myself, just shows you what a humble man he is. Tom Holkenborg, otherwise known as Junkie XL, is the man behind the music that soundtracks multiple multi-million-dollar IPs and franchises. The Dutch full contract composer, multi-instrumentalist and producer's latest high-profile project is Zack Snyder's Justice League, aka Justice League, the director's cut. It's also known by fans as the Snyder Cut. To be honest, the reason why it's called the Snyder Cut is that there was a Snyder Cut. I knew quite a long time ago that this was in the works and that it existed. He confirmed, this was not decided overnight. I had already done a lot of work for this project. It's so exciting to see this version of the movie finally come alive. Zack put a lot of time into the original version. I put a lot of time into the original version. So it is great to have closure and that this is finally coming out. Beautiful. But hopefully not closure for your involvement within the DCEU and the Snyderverse, Tom. It's so great to work with Zack. This is like project number 5 for us. I've also finished Army of the Dead with him, wow, this year. And that movie comes out on Netflix next year. This whole year, it's been like working with my best friends. The original version of Justice League landed in theatres in November in 2017. It grossed $657.9 million at the worldwide box office against a production budget of $300 million. For Holkenborg, being able to revisit the project allowed him to complete his vision. Besides Man of Steel theme for Superman and the theme for Wonder Woman, which I have given a new spin, all the other themes for this movie are brand new. A new spin to the Man of Steel and Wonder Woman theme. Can't wait to hear them. He revealed some of them I did the groundwork on 4 years ago. But as you grow as a composer, you look at what you did and maybe have a better way of doing it now or a better idea. It was inspiring. I would get an idea in my downtime and think, oh, let's rework this thing. Let's do that, because I knew for a while that this was coming. I had the time and space to shape it into the best possible form. Different characters have different musical statements to those same characters in the past. Much like their stories in the comics, they change and evolve over the years. So what was a great thing for Superman in the 70s doesn't mean that it is the right theme for Superman in 2013? Ooh. When the director takes on a superhero character and when a composer takes on the superhero character, they should do what feels right inside them, of course. You know, I love the Christopher Reeve Superman theme, and I do think it's timeless, and I think it's fantastic, and I love hearing it, and it inspires me. But obviously, Tom was going to do his own theme, and I think that's kind of a little knock at what happened with Justice League 2017, Justice League, where they did use partially that original Superman theme. He added, "You should come up with a theme that inspires you for that character." I think that is important in the development of these movies. If Mad Max gets remade in 25 years, I'm not expecting people to do something similar to what I did for Fury Road. You know, give it your take. Mad Max Fury Road, which grossed $3.572 million at the worldwide box office, is another acclaimed soundtrack on Hulkenberg's resume. It's one he could return to. George Miller, the director, and I talk all the time. He said, "I know there are a lot of ideas floating around, but I have no idea what the realization of those is in terms of it being greenlit or not. While some of his projects happen in a more traditional manner, such as Marvel's Deadpool, others have been a happy accident." A perfect example is the Godzilla vs. Kong movie. Wow, he's doing that as well. That is coming out next year. He enthused, "I'm such a Godzilla freak. I have all the Japanese versions of the movies at a certain point, just for shits and giggles. I wrote something for Godzilla about 2 years ago. I met the director because he showed interest in me as a composer. I asked him, 'Do you know I'm the biggest Godzilla fan on the planet? And years ago I wrote some stuff.' He was like, 'You're kidding me.' So we started communicating. I tweaked what I did, played it for him, and he was totally in love. He continues to work on smaller projects and TV projects such as Netflix White Lines and tentpole movies. One industry trend Hulkenberg is very happy to see significant investment in and soundtracks. Studios, or at least the studios I've been working with my 8-year composer career, really want to help you realize what you're trying to set out to do." He explained, "I think it's fantastic development and the result is working for them as a business. It's great to see that people enjoy listening to music from soundtracks. Sometimes the soundtrack goes beyond the movie. Beyond the movie fans and lands with the general public. I still get messages from people that say they listen to the Mad Max and Deadpool soundtracks when they work out at the gym. And that's a great thing. I listen to Man of Steel on BBS while I'm having a shave in the morning. It's awesome, isn't it?" Hulkenberg said, "Sometimes money's not an issue. I worked with Peter Jackson on Mortal Engines. I didn't know that. And I said to him that it would be great if I can make noises with all the props from the film and use that in the music. He got a hanger through the props in there plus a couple of trucks. And we went out there for a week. I was banging all kinds of different props from the movie to create a sound library out of it." Wow! This guy's amazing, isn't he? On Godzilla vs. Kong, I said, "I think we need the biggest bass drum on the planet for this score. I know the guy who can build it. What do you think?" They just said, "Let's do it." So I said, "I want a bass drum that is at least 8 feet in diameter." He laughed. The guy called me back and he asked, "Is it okay if it's only 6? I said, "Could we do 8? Why can't we do 10? The answer was, "Well, there's simply no cow alive that has a skin big enough to cover for 10-foot bass drum. So we have to scale it down to 8. God, that poor cow that they did use makes me feel a bit sad there. It was worth the money." So that is the interview. So Tom Hulkenberg is a great guy and his music has been absolutely fantastic. His themes for Batman versus Superman is amazing. It's interesting to listen to him talk that there was always a Snyder Cut. Of course, we know there was always a Snyder Cut, but there was doubts put over it. I suppose you could argue that Warner Brothers were doing back then, especially with Ben Fritz's article, what they're doing now with Ray Fisher. You could argue that. The difference is now, and I think this is why the fandom is split, and we're not a united fandom over Ray Fisher and what he's saying, is because we're getting the Snyder Cut. Zack's back, Junkie XL's back. So for some of us, I know, it's really hard to be motivated about the Justice League reshoot happenings, and it's become a bit of a saga every day. And Ray is trying to keep it in the public atmosphere, public arena. and I can understand why. But for us fans, we probably want to focus on the movies now, and I can also understand that. But Tom Hulkenberg, wow, Junkie XL, I can't wait to hear his soundtrack from Zack Snyder's Justice League. We heard a bit of it the other day, the actual Justice League theme, which I think is so inspirational and sounds amazing. He's also said he's tweaked the Man of Steel and Wonder Woman themes in Justice League as well. So I'm looking forward to hearing those versions. And, you know, he's got 4 hours of music, because what you'll find with Zack Snyder's movies, there's not a lot of dead air. Most of it is got music in it. It's a bit like Star Wars, really. Star Wars, especially in New Hope, is covered with music. And I think that helps a movie. That helps develop its character. So really exciting. I'm so happy to hear from Tom, and I'm excited that he's happy to be doing this too. Now, this article from the Hollywood Reporter is about the Warner Media leaders. Now, they're talking about internal companies that they have relationships with and how they're disappointed about investigations that they've had into their practices on their sets and how they treat people. This has nothing to do blatantly with the DC movie universe, I will warn you now, but I think it is connected, and it's very interesting to read this to see how they see these things, even though Ray Fisher and the Justice League reshoots isn't mentioned. Warner Media leaders concerned and disappointed with internal culture reports memos say Warner Media CEO Jason Kilar says the company has hired a third party to review its production business and may terminate business relationships that do not live up to the company's conduct standards. Now, that's massive. Let me repeat that. The company has hired a third party to review its production business and may terminate business relationships that do not live up to the company's conduct standards. Now, this is massive, of course, because this could happen to Jeff Johns, because Jeff Johns has his own production company now. That's how he's still working with Patty Jenkins, and that could be terminated if they feel so. The problem with that is he's probably not done anything wrong while working with Patty, and his production company wasn't even created when he was running the DC extended universe. So that would be a bit complicated. But let's read what this says. Warner Media CEO Jason Kilar and Warner Brothers CEO, chairperson Ann Sarnoff are addressing reports of poor workplace cultures at the Ellen DeGeneres Show, at TMZ on TV, and other shows produced by its subdivision Telepictures in 2 new memos. Now, obviously the Ellen investigation has been something that's been going for quite a while now, but it looks like they've got the full investigation reported to them. In the memos, both sent this week, Kilar and Sarnoff addressed what the former calls public reports regarding patterns of unacceptable behaviour. The memos follow the free BuzzFeed news reports centering on toxic work environments at Ellen and TMZ on TV, and anticipation of the Hollywood Reporter publishing a feature-length investigation into the workplace culture at those 2 shows. Interesting. And other Telepictures productions. A Warner Media spokesperson points out the memos were meant to address HR problems throughout the company. Now, did Warner Media respond to this because this is going to be now their motto now, to root out this cruddy behaviour, or is it because the Hollywood Reporter were actually going to do a documentary about this and they had no choice? That's interesting, isn't it? In his memo, Kilar writes that he's both concerned and disappointed in recent stories about the company, and adds this email is to share what we will be doing about it. The newly installed Warner Media leader, Kilar, was named CEO on April 1st after a successful run at Hulu as its founding CEO. Adds that the company has hired a third party to review its production business, will be I'm not reading that word, forget it. Its standards of business and conduct internally and with current and upcoming business partners, and is encouraging employees to report unacceptable conduct. He says that Warner Media may, as a result of its review and reaffirmation of its business conduct standards, uncouple from companies and individuals that do not uphold them. So that could be a certain situation where they could say, look, Jeff Johns, you acted improperly in the past, and we're divorcing our arrangement with you. That could happen. We shall see. I anticipate that there will be situations where we choose to terminate business relationships, he writes. I also anticipate that there will be situations where a person may choose not to work with us because of these rigid expectations. That's fine. While there may be companies that will do business with those people, we do not need to be one of them. Wow, big statement. Sarnoff's memo focuses on Warner Brothers' code of conduct, which emphasizes respect and the freedom to question authority. Unfortunately, they're also not how some people have behaved in the past. She writes of the conduct standards. It's time for that to change. As the leader of this new organization, I take responsibility for what happened on my watch. Sarnoff is also relatively new to her leadership role, having ascended in June 2019 from her previous role as president of BBC Studios America. Now, this is interesting because Warner Brothers, the Warner Brothers rules state that, a worker can question a person in authority, which is exactly what Ray Fisher was doing when the reshoot started and his role was lessened. So in terms of what Ray Fisher was doing, under their rules, that's fine, and the director or Jeff Johns should have been respectful of those concerns. So this does put the Jeff Johns situation into focus, even though they're not talking about it. He could be one of these individuals they divorced from, but only time will tell. Sarnoff adds that she will additionally hold accountable new leadership team she's been putting in place that will oversee the tone and culture of the company. Interesting. She continues, I've also empowered and will hold accountable the studios and networks, HR and legal teams to act on any issues that are brought to them. These groups are a safe harbor where you can register any concerns. And this is an important thing for Ray Fisher. While the company has always been active in addressing employee concerns, she writes, it will be redoubling its efforts going forward. Warner Media has been addressing reports of a poor work culture at the Ellen DeGeneres show in recent weeks, parting ways with three top producers and adding new work benefits for employees. The Hollywood Reporter's story on Thursday argued that problems like verbal abuse, high turnover, and effective human resource departments extended well beyond Ellen to show across Warner Brothers Telepictures division. Read the memo in full below. Hello team, I am both concerned and disappointed by the public reports regarding patterns of unacceptable behaviour that have been raised in recent weeks. This email is to share what we will be doing about it. I have always been a believer that a reputation is largely what people say about you when you are not in the room. In my first 4 months here at Warner Media, I've thought a lot about our reputation, specifically what is our reputation today and what aspirations should we have for our reputation going forward. I've come to the conclusion that one of the most important things I'd like people to say about us when we are not in the room is that we treat people with dignity. What does it mean to treat a person with dignity at a minimum? I believe it entails an acceptance of another person's identity. It also entails a responsibility to validate, to recognise and to include. Finally, I believe it entails a commitment to fairness and a commitment to maintaining a safe environment for all. I say the above as prelude to the statement that going forward we will be reinforcing our values and demanding more of ourselves and more of the people with whom we choose to partner. We will not be tolerating patterns of behaviour that are at odds with our need to treat each other with dignity. What this means is it's another word I can't read. Pragmatically. That's it, pragmatically. Yes, there's some words I can't read, I'm afraid, my issue. We have engaged a third party to do an objective, proactive review across our production business. Internal teams, in addition to partner productions, I want to understand if there's any pattern of behaviour that is at odds with our need to treat each other with dignity. I also am encouraging all of you and our partners to report situations where you see a pattern of behaviour at odds with this standard. This can be done with a simple communication to your supervisor or HR rep. It can also be done by sending an email to Mike Sophia, who heads up compliance for the company. And the email is stated down there. Anonymously, it can be done by calling our helpline, 800-375-0288, so you can speak to them without anyone finding out. We will continue to take seriously every allegation of abuse of power, unethical conduct, discrimination of other concerns, and investigate any claim brought forward. Over the next few weeks, each of you will be receiving an updated version of our standards of business conduct. You will be expected to fully digest this important document and sign up to it as a condition of being on this team. In the coming weeks, we will also be communicating to all of our existing and prospective partners, e.g. the active and potential motion picture and television production. This communication will make clear the requirement that people be treated with dignity and our intention to sever ties where patterns of behaviour are at odds with that requirement. I anticipate that there will be situations where we choose to terminate business relationships. I also anticipate that there will be situations where a person may choose not to work with us because of these rigid expectations. That's fine, while there may be companies that will do business with those people. I also want to say that managing our way strongly through the above will entail remembering that we are all human. I am certain that we will make mistakes as we endeavour to get this right, but I know we can and we will be better so long as we are clear in our expectations and hold each other accountable to those expectations each and every day. With thanks, Jason. And then we got, I think this must be Anne Sarnoff. Hi everyone, it's been a little over a month since our two groups were brought together, and in that time I've had an opportunity to think about the culture of our new organisation and want to share these thoughts with you. As a new division of our company, we have the opportunity to clearly state our principles and our expectations right from the start, so we're all working from the same playbook. The Studios and Networks Group is a creative nexus for all of Warner Media, and our success will be based on innovation, calculated risk, taking unbridled creativity and clearly defined code of conduct. We all have a role in supporting our code of conduct and no one is above it. So with that in mind, some initial thoughts. Be collaborative in your creativity. Think outside the box and outside your legacy company. Be respectful. Be open and direct in your communication. Let's treat our colleagues the way we'd like to be treated, regardless of their job title or position. Do not be afraid to question authority or status quo. Everyone adds value and every voice matters. Finally, and perhaps the most importantly, please feel empowered to call out behaviour that runs counter to these values. We can see these aren't radical or even new ideas, but unfortunately they're also not how some people have behaved in the past. It's time for that to change. As the leader of this new organisation, I take responsibility for what happens on my watch. Over the last few weeks, I've been putting together my senior leadership team and will hold them accountable for setting the tone for how we work together across the company and how we treat each other across the table. I've also empowered and will hold accountable the studios and networks and legal teams to act any issues that are brought to them. These groups are a safe harbour where you can register any concerns. And it pretty much goes on like that. Amazing. Amazing. So, what connection does this have to the Ray Fisher situation? Basically, in two memos, Jason Kilar and Anne Sarnoff have pretty much torn down everything and said, listen, this will no longer be tolerated. Now, of course, according to Ray Fisher, we had Walter Hamada saying to him, can we forget about Jeff Johns? I've worked with him. He seems like a cool guy. Can we just focus on Joss Whedon? And of course, Ray wasn't going to do that because he wants to genuinely root out what happened when he was working on the reshoots. And of course, I would imagine that is not part of the Warner Media new kind of plan. Now, so it's going to be interesting what happens here. They've already warned that they will divorce from individuals and companies who are not interested in having this conduct where you have to treat people fairly, you have to treat your employees' concerns fairly, people should be able to speak up. They've set up a whole division. So this is massive. Warner Media are cleaning house. And I think this will have direct consequences for Jeff Johns. And I know I've said in the past he's untouchable and it's a waste of time. And I think my view there has always been, do you know what, can't we just focus on the films? And I think that's what's been upsetting me about this whole situation. It's ugly, but sometimes things get ugly in life. And Ray has been determined, and I still want to focus on the films. I want it to go away quickly. I don't know that it will, but it's very interesting that on a week where Ray's been very, very vocal about this whole situation, Anne Sarnoff and Kilar have come out and responded as a company. That says something, that they are listening and that heads will roll. And I hope the sooner these heads will roll, the better, so we can move on and again focus on the films. So Ray Fisher did make a statement yesterday, and this is what it was. Due to the purposeful lack of transparency and in some cases blatant lies on the part of WB Pictures and the third-party firm hired by them to investigate Justice League, an official request for a change of investigator has been made of Warner Media. He goes on, so as to protect the witnesses involved and the information they possess, I strongly encourage any and all that have been contacted by the current investigator to respectfully decline the interview until a truly independent third party is engaged by Warner Media. Now, what's a bit worrying about all this, and if what Ray's saying is true, and there's no reason to say that it's not true, is that, Warner Media make this big speech about, setting out these parameters, and it's great, but why haven't they physically got involved with this? Why are Warner Brothers Pictures being allowed to investigate themselves? And I do understand that. As I say, even though I don't want to keep on talking about this because it bugs the shit out of me because it's so negative, but why aren't Warner Media just saying, you know what, right, here's a bunch of investigators, third party, go for it, let's clean this up, like they say they are going to. Obviously, they want to deal with this internally and not publicly. Quite clearly, Warner Media and Warner Bros. Pictures, of course, are not happy that Ray's gone public. Now, there is another way of dealing with this. If they don't want to deal with this through official third-party channels, Ray and Jason, for example, Ray Fisher and Jason Momoa could come out and publicly go on social media and, disclose their experiences on the Justice League set on the reshoots with Joss Whedon. They could tell us, the public, everything. So legally, this means they don't have a leg to stand on, and this is what Ray wants to do. He wants to take it the legal route. But the legal route is problematic. If he comes out and says what he experienced and doesn't mention other people's names, but mentions what they experienced, what happens is, boom, boom. Then Warner Media have no choice but to deal with this because it's all over the internet and it's ugly. Now, of course, Ray claims he's still under an NDA and can't say too much publicly apart from what he's saying. That's interesting. Now, the NDA obviously doesn't cover confidential conversations with him and the president of DC Movies, right? Because we know what Walter said to him. What's very clear is that Walter Hamada has no love for Joss Whedon, and I think we can all say that Joss Whedon acted improperly both on the Justice League reshoots and in other cases in the past. So clearly this isn't going away, but Ange Sarnoff's and Jason Kilar's kind of memo is very important. They're saying they're going to deal with this. They're going to deal with this. Just be patient. And the thing is, I just don't want to be talking about this every day. But if something breaks, I will have to talk about it, unfortunately. And finally today, some positive news here on the DC Multiverse Daily. Smallville panel with original cast set for NYCC 2020. The cast of the long-running Superman origin show Smallville, the greatest show on Earth, or one of them, by the way, still obsessed with this show and is telling us Superman, will reunite for a special NYCC panel to mark almost 2 decades since the show began. The cast of the long-running Superman original series Smallville will reunite for a special New York Comic-Con panel to mark almost 2 decades since the show began. Smallville debuted back in October 2001, running for 10 seasons on the WB and the CW. It made stars of its core cast, which included Tom Welling as Clark Kent, Superman, Kristen Krug as Lana Lang, the girl next door, and Michael Rosenbaum, who stole the show as young Lex Luthor. Yes, he stole the show, no question about that. He is the ultimate Lex. But where are we? Yeah, as a young Lex Luthor. The show was hailed for presenting an exciting and faithful in tone take on Kent's youth and early years as a reporter for the Daily Planet. It was a phenomenal show. Many of the cast who joined later seasons of the show, such as Laura Vandervoort, who played Clark's Kryptonian cousin, and Erica Durant, who played Lois Lane, have gone on to appear in the CW's current Arrowverse. Welling and Durant also reprised their Smallville roles during the Crisis on Infinite Earths storyline in the Arrowverse. The less we talk about that, the better. Very angry about what they did there. With the scenes set on the Kemp family farm, proving to be among the most popular in the ambitious crossover. Only popular because we got to see them again, not what they did with them. Clark doesn't give up being Superman. For no reason. He's a parent, he can be a parent, and he can be Superman. End of story. According to Deadline, key members of the Smallville cast will reunite for the all-digital New York Comic Con in October, almost 19 years to the day since the first episode was broadcast. The panel, titled 20 Years of Fandom, Friendship and Flying, will feature Welling, Rosenbaum, Durant, Brilliant, Vandervoort, and Sam Witwer. Sam Witwer played Davis Bloom, which was the dual identity of Doomsday on the show. And he had this amazing arc, and of course, he's gone on to do such great voice acting and performances too. And of course, he's played Darth Maul in Clone Wars as well, so what a legend. So that's Sam Witwer, who played Doomsday's human alter ego, Davis Bloom, on the show. The description for the panel promises the cast will reminisce about the shooting the show and what the future holds. And given that Durant, Witwer, and Vandervoort are all part of the current Arrowverse on one, it assumes they'll discuss their thoughts on the recent version of their characters too. They're not going to speak the truth, though, because they still want a future working, right? Should be fascinating, given the cast have almost a decade to reflect on their roles in the iconic series. Though it's disappointing that Kruk and some of the other long-term cast members won't be a part of it. To be fair to Christine, she has turned up. She has done conventions. It's not like she refuses. She's just not a part of this one. I assume it's because it's on an official capacity and maybe she has issues with the company, but she has worked for Warner Brothers Television. I think what the Hollywood Reporter said in that Jason Kilar and Sarnoff article is interesting, though. Warner Brothers TV have had issues with their code of conduct and the way they treat people, as we know from the Lethal Weapon TV show. Anyway, one actor who, it's not surprising, won't take part is Alison Mack, who played Chloe Sullivan across all 10 seasons of the show. The actress is currently awaiting sentencing after pleading guilty in a bizarre sex cult case. Besides that controversy, though, Smallville is fondly remembered by fans, and this reunion should be an excellent chance for audiences to hear some behind-the-scenes stories from the show and reminisce about the 2000s along with the cast. Yeah, I wish I could be part of that. I don't know, is it free? Do you have to pay? I don't know. I think you may need tickets. But anyway, it will turn up on YouTube, and I'm sure I will talk about it. But who knows? There may be some announcements. We may find out that Smallville is coming back or play some new part in the DC multiverse strategy. That's important because I do believe Smallville has a part to play in Walter Hamada's and Jim Lee's plans. So, it's been a jam-packed damn episode of the DC Multiverse Daily. I had to take that hat off because I'm just getting so sweaty now. That's it for today, everyone. Are you excited that Henry Cavill has signed a free-picture Superman deal, including cameos, right? I think I said not including cameos, including cameos. I said that earlier. So he's doing cameos. He's in a Flashpoint movie alongside the rest of the Justice League cast as well. Are you excited about that? Or do you just think it's a distraction for the Ray Fisher stuff? I do think it's a distraction. I also think it's awesome news that we can all be happy about. It can't all be dramatic and negative all the time. Right. What do you think of Jason Kilar's and Ann Sarnoff's memo? Are you excited that they're going to root out people like potentially like Jeff Johns? We shall see about that. And what did you think about the Junkie XL Tom Hokenberg interview? I enjoyed it and I thought it was awesome and I can't wait to hear his soundtrack. And are you excited that the Smallville cast are reunited? Please comment down below. Like, share and subscribe, and I'll be back tomorrow with even more DC Multiverse Daily. But for now, I need a glass of water. See you again soon.